Hey, sixth graders. Today we are learning about solving and writing multiplication equations. Will be very similar to in the last lesson when we solved and wrote addition and subtraction equations, okay? So I want you to turn to, it's going to be the third page, I believe, which is page 553. Get out your notes, and we are writing this whole section here into our notes about the division property of equality, okay? So write the title, division property of equality. You're going to write this definition, which is, if you divide, I lost my pen. If you divide each side of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides remain equal. Okay, and we see here, I hope we see here, yep. Okay, so 18 equals 18, right? If we divide the 18 by 6 on both sides, we end up with 3 equals 3. So we can see in that example that as long as we divide the same number by the same number on both sides of the equal sign, we're okay. Very similar to when we have a fraction and we divide or multiply numerator and denominator by the same number. So here's the algebra example. We had 3x, and I'm going to explain this for a second here. What is 3 over 3? We consider that the same as one whole, right? So when we take 3x, or 3 times x, and divide it by 3, well, here's our one whole right here, right? 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that equals 1x. And now we're thinking about the identity property, which states that anything we multiply by 1 is just that number. So 1 times x is just x. So in effect, when we divide by 3 right here, we get rid of the 3, and we've isolated the variable. We have x by itself. But we can't stop there. Whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we need to do to the other side. So we divide the 12 by 3, which equals 4. So x equals 4 in that example. Okay? If you don't fully understand everything I just said, it's okay. Please write down this title, this definition, and these two examples, and then we'll go on back up here to the first page. What are we learning about today? How to solve a multiplication equation and what the division property of equality is all about. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, switch back to my pointer. The equation 3x equals 9 is a multiplication equation. In 3x, the 3 is the coefficient of x because it is the number by which x is being multiplied. So if you don't have this in your notes already, here's an example, 3x. The number 3 is the coefficient, and the letter x we call the variable. If that is not in your notes yet, I highly recommend you stop right now and put that in. Okay, so coefficient. See that word co? Let's think about words we already know. And this right here, you do not have to write. Just listen for a second. Co plus pilot equals co-pilot. And a co-pilot is the second pilot in the cockpit helping the primary pilot fly the plane, right? Co plus author, that would be co-author. And a co-author is the person who is working with someone else to write a book. Cooperate or cooperate, we need to cooperate when we work in a group, okay? And coefficient, this coefficient is going to work with the variable to get the job done, okay? Let's take a look at this real world link. Matthew is downloading ringtones. The cost to download each ringtone is $2. Each ringtone is $2. When Matthew is finished, he has spent a total of $12. We're going to let X represent the number of ringtones. What does the expression 2X represent? Oh, so they're not really asking us to solve it. They are asking us to state what 2X is the same as each $2 ringtones, $2 ringtones times the number purchased. And of course, we know that's 5 because 2x equals 10. So 2 times what equals $10? 5. All right, moving on. Okay, a multiplication equation is an equation like 2x equals 10 because the variable, or x, is multiplied by 2. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. I think we should highlight that. Inverse operations, okay? So multiplication and division are inverse, meaning they're opposites. So to solve a multiplication equation, use division, okay? So here's an example. 2x equals 10. They divided by 2 here, which isolated the x, and then they divided by 2 here. Okay, it works. If x equals 5, our original equation should be true. When we put a 5 where the x is, we get 2 times 5, which equals 10, which makes 4 10 equals 10. That checks as true. Let's try this one. Our equation is 3x equals 6. So in order to isolate the variable, we'll divide this side by 3, which cancels that out, and then we'll divide the other side of our equation by 3. 6 divided by 3, that's 2. So divide each side by their coefficient. 3, okay? Let me zoom in a little bit here. So the original equation was 3x equals 6. If we substitute x with 2, well, 3 times 2 equals 6, so that checks. The sentence is equal. I'll replace x with 2. Okay, let's try some on our own. All right, so we have 3x. The coefficient is 3. We'll divide by 3. That cancels out. Divide this side by 3, and x equals 5. Ta-da! Okay, coefficient in this one is 4, so we'll divide by 4. That cancels out. Divide this side by 4, and x equals 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Okay, another one. 2x equals 14. Coefficient is 2. We'll divide by that. Divide by 2. X equals 14 divided by 2 is 7. Nice. That's not so bad, huh? All right, we already reviewed division property of equality, so we're moving on here. We have Vincent and some friends shared the cost of a package of blank CDs. The package costs $24, and each person contributed $6. How many people shared the cost? So we have 6x equals 24. 6 times what equals 24? 4. So 4 people shared the cost. All right, let's look at this one. In 2004, wait, that's not pertinent information. In 2004, Penn Hadow and Simon Murray walked 680 miles to the South Pole. Wow. Okay, the trip took 58 days. Suppose they traveled the same distance each day. Write and solve a multiplication equation to find about how many miles they traveled each day. Okay, so the trip took 58 days. So 58 days times how many miles? We'll use m equals miles. equals 680 miles in all. So we need to divide, right? We'll divide by the coefficient, which is 58. Cancels out. Divide by 58. Ooh, big scary numbers, but I'm not afraid. So 680 divided by 58. Oh, this doesn't look so bad. 58 goes into 68 once. 1 times 58 is 58. Subtract 0. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down. Now 58 into 100. Still only goes once. Once. 1 times 58 is 58. Subtract. 0 minus 8. Can't do that. I'll borrow here, make it a 9. Give it here. 10 take away 8 is 2. 9 take away 5 is 4. And this is, we don't really want a remainder this time. So let's put a decimal and a 0 and bring down a 0. Okay. So 58 into 420. I think I will skip count by 60s because that's close to 58. So 60, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 6 is 18, 4 times 6 is 24, 5 times 6 is 30, 6 times 6 is 36, 7 times 6 is 42. Oh, look at that. There is our magic number. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who knew that would go in to divide so nicely? 420 subtract 0. Okay, so they walked approximately 11.7 miles per day. Cool. All right. Here's another example, and the reason why I keep saying on ones like this where it's easy and it's a multiplication fact and we already know the answer, we should still practice dividing the coefficient by itself because the numbers are going to get bigger. Don't be afraid though. I'll just relieve some stress for you and let you know that these divide quite nicely. Okay? So this one will be divided by 2.25. Divide by 2.25. Let's have a little review of decimals, shall we? 2.25 into 6.75. We cannot have a decimal in the divisor. So we're going to move that over 1, 2, which means we also need to move the dividend decimal over 2 places. 1, 2. Okay? So 225 into 600. Well, I could think this 200, 400, 600. I feel like it might go in 3 times. And if we take the decimal part, 25, 50, 75, yeah, I'm confident. 3. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6. Yep, it checks. That monstrous looking equation was just 3. N equals 3. I feel pretty confident now. Let's try another one. So our coefficient is 1.7. Divide by that. Divide by 1.7. So let's set up our division problem because we are not afraid. 1.7 into 8.5. Move the decimal. 1, 1. Oh, so it's 17 into 85. Miss Munyon already gave you a big hint that they divide nicely. So what could we multiply 7 by that the answer would have a 5 in the ones place? 5. I like it. Let's try it. So if it's 5, 5 times 7 is 35. And 5 times 1 is 5 plus the 3 is 8. Ah, worked out just fine. So our variable is b. B equals 5. Okay, one more. One more, and then we'll go back to some easier ones. Don't get too comfortable, though. So we are dividing by 6.15, dividing by 6.15. So let's set that up. 55 and 35 hundredths divided by 6 and 15 hundredths. But, we cannot have a decimal in the divisor. 1, 2, 1, 2. Once again. Oh no. Look at this beast. We cannot do 615 into 55, 550. We have to do it into the whole dang thing. Well, let's keep count by 600s. Okay, I am not afraid. 600. 2 times 6 is 12, so 1200. 3 times 6 is 18, so 1800. 4 times 6 is 24, so 2400. This is going up fast. 5 times 6 is 30, so 3000. 6 times 6 is 36, 3600. This is taking a long time. Let's skip to 9. What's 9 times 6? 54. 54. 5400. What do you think? Should we risk it? Let's try it. 600. Let me do it up here. 615 times 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 4 is 13. 9 times 6 is 54. Plus 1 is 55. Did it go in evenly again? It sure did. So that was 9, right? 9. So our variable is y. Y equals 9. Now that I've done that, I really feel silly that I was afraid of that. How about you guys? Okay, divide by the coefficient. All fractions are division, right? Divide by the coefficient. A equals 6 divided by 2 is 3. All right, divide by the coefficient. Divide by the coefficient. C equals 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Okay, divide by the coefficient. Divide by the coefficient. Oh, we're going to set this one up. Let me get the 6 out of the way. All right, so we have 28 and 2/10 divided by 9 and 4/10. But we don't want a decimal in the divisor. So move it, move it. Oh, 94 and 282. They've been really nice to us to think this one goes in evenly too. How many times though? Well, if we skip counted by 100, 200, 300, but it's really 94 and not 100. So maybe, let's try that out. If it's 3, 3 times 4 is 12. Oh, that looks promising. 3 times 9 is 27 plus 1 is 28. Look at that. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? All right, let's take a look at this one. The length of an object in feet is equal to 3 times its length in yards. Okay, 3 times its length in yards. The variable of a water slide, or the length of a water slide is 48 feet. Write and solve a multiplication equation to find the length of the water slide in yards. Okay, so we know in feet it's 48. So 3 times the yards is how we would get 48 feet, right? Okay, so we're going to divide by the coefficient. Divide by the coefficient. 3 into 48. 3 goes into 4 once. 3 subtract 18. 3 goes into 18 6 times. Okay, so that would be 16 yards. Cool. 16 yards is the same as 48 feet. Cool. The time to burn a CD is 18 minutes. Last weekend, Dimitri spent 90 minutes burning CDs. Write and solve a multiplication equation to find the number of CDs Dimitri burned last weekend. Explain how you can check your solution. All right, so 18 minutes per CD. He burned 90 minutes worth of CDs total. So that could be 18C, right? We're going to divide by 18. What times 8 would give us a 0 in the ones place? Yeah, perhaps 5. Let's see if it checks. 18 times 5. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 4 is 9. That checks. C equals 5. How could we check that? Well, we kind of already did over here. 18 times 5 is 90, so we know we're right. All right, so this last question here, how can the division property of equality be used to solve multiplication equations? So basically, when we divide the same number on both sides of the equal sign, that isolates the variable, meaning it gets the letter all by itself on one side. And if we succeed at doing that, the other side of the equation will tell us that the answer the variable. Okay, and it works on simple problems and it works on really difficult problems. Okay, go work on this on your own. Bye, guys.